Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome to Mr. Peter Stories. How are you, my family? Did you miss me? Because I missed you so much. I am recovering, and with your love and prayers, I will be okay soon. Before we begin, let me say a special, powerful Friday prayer for my beautiful family. Heavenly Father, I lift up my beautiful family to you today. Lord, wrap them in your endless love. Protect them from all harm, heal their pain, and fill their hearts with unshakable peace. Let their homes be filled with laughter, their souls with joy, and their days with blessings beyond measure. Father, I ask you to remove every burden from their shoulders, wipe away their silent tears, replace their fears with faith and their struggles with victory. When they feel weak, give them strength. When they feel lost, guide them with your light. Bless their families, their work, their health, and their dreams. Open doors of opportunities for them and let love and abundance follow them wherever they go. Lord, as they watch this video, let their hearts feel warmth, comfort, and joy. Let them know they are deeply loved, not just by me, but by you. And no matter what they face, remind them that you are always by their side. In your holy and powerful name I pray, amen. My beautiful family, did James satisfy you? And my family, when I checked my channel analytics, tears came to my eyes. The channel is down, and if this continues for a few more days, YouTube will stop recommending Mr. Peter to you. But I refuse to let that happen. I know my family is strong, and together we will rise again. Promise me, we will bring this channel back to life. I will keep uploading, and you, my beautiful family, just need to like and share these videos. It only takes 5 seconds from you, but it means everything to me. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Meeting. October's early morning fog clung to Manhattan's glass towers as Vanessa Mitchell reviewed her presentation one final time. At 32, she'd become the youngest CFO in Cooper Industries history, and today's board meeting would either cement her position or destroy everything she'd built. She'd discovered irregularities in the European division's accounts, transactions that suggested money laundering on a massive scale. The evidence sat in an encrypted file on her private server, backed up in locations even her tech-savvy brother, Michael, couldn't trace. 3 months of careful investigation had led to this moment. Her fingers traced the scar on her wrist, a reminder of her father's lesson. Truth doesn't ask permission to exist. The boardroom doors opened precisely at 8:55 a.m. Board members filed in, their expressions carefully neutral. Thomas Chen, head of Asian operations, caught her eye with a subtle nod. He'd been her mentor since her analyst days, and his support had helped her navigate Cooper Industries' cutthroat culture. A hush fell as Harrison Cooper entered, supporting himself with a brass-handled cane, his first public appearance since his stroke 3 months ago. Behind him strode his son, Beckham Cooper III, his bespoke Tom Ford suit a sharp contrast to his father's traditional Brooks Brothers. Vanessa noted the tension between them. Rumors suggested the stroke had forced Harrison to accelerate the succession. Timeline pushing Beckham into power before his father deemed him ready. The younger Cooper's string of failed marriages and legendary temper had made headlines, but his brilliant corporate maneuvers had tripled the company's value in 5 years. Ms. Mitchell, Beckham's voice cut through her observations. I believe you have some concerns about our European operations. She stood, smoothing her Alexander McQueen blazer, a congratulatory gift from her mother when she'd made CFO. Not concerns, Mr. Cooper, evidence. The presentation screen flickered to life behind her. For the next 20 minutes, she laid out her findings. Shell companies in Luxembourg, suspicious wire transfers through Switzerland, a pattern of acquisitions. That made no business sense until you followed the money. This isn't just about compliance, she concluded. These transactions have exposed us to significant legal risk, The EU's new financial regulations are guidelines, not laws. Beckham interrupted, his steel-grey eyes narrowing. Your caution is admirable, Ms. Mitchell, but business requires bold action. Bold action shouldn't mean blind risk, she countered, bringing up the next slide. These transactions trace back to entities currently under investigation by Europol. One wrong move could... Harrison Cooper's cane struck the floor with surprising force. Enough. His voice, though weakened by illness, still commanded attention. Beckham, your expansion strategies have always walked the line. Ms. Mitchell's concerns merit investigation. The younger Cooper's jaw tightened. Vanessa recognized the look. She'd studied recordings of his previous boardroom confrontations. It was the same expression he'd worn before orchestrating his rival's downfalls. Perhaps, Beckham said smoothly, Ms. Mitchell would be willing to discuss her findings in detail. Dinner, perhaps. The invitation hung in the air like smoke. Vanessa met his gaze steadily. I prefer to keep business discussions in professional settings. My team can prepare a detailed report by Friday. Something flickered in Beckham's eyes. Surprise mixed with something darker. He wasn't used to rejection in any form. The board stirred uncomfortably, witnessing a shift in the corporate dynamic they'd known for years. As the meeting concluded, Harrison Cooper lingered. Walk with me, Ms. Mitchell. In his private elevator, the old man studied her silently. You've done exceptional work, he said finally, but you've also painted a target on your back. Beckham, he doesn't handle defiance well. I don't handle corruption well, she replied. Your son's brilliant, Mr. Cooper, but brilliance without ethics is just sophisticated destruction. Harrison's laugh turned into a cough. You sound like his mother. She was our chief counsel before... He trailed off, pain clouding his features. Watch your back, Ms. Mitchell. Power doesn't appreciate being questioned. Later that evening, as Vanessa worked late in her office, a message appeared on her screen. Financial records from Beckham's previous marriages showing patterns of systematic destruction. The sender's name made her breath catch. Diana Cooper, Beckham's first wife, now living under an assumed name in Vancouver. You're not the first to challenge him, the message read. But you might be the first to succeed. Call me. Outside. Her window, Manhattan's lights glittered like fallen stars. Somewhere in that galaxy of glass and steel, Beckham Cooper was already planning his response to her defiance. But Vanessa Mitchell had learned long ago that truth, like light, finds its way through even the smallest cracks in power's facade. She opened a secure line and dialed Vancouver, knowing this call would change everything. Sometimes victory requires not just courage to fight, but wisdom to gather the right allies. Chapter 2. The Price of Loyalty. The October rain pelted against the windows of James Cooper's corner office on the 85th floor. 25 years of service surrounded him. Photographs capturing Cooper Industries' rise from regional manufacturer to global powerhouse, awards acknowledging his role in key acquisitions, and the worn leather chair where he'd mentored a young Beckham through his first hostile takeover. His computer chimed with an encrypted message from Diana Cooper. After 8 years of silence, Harrison's first daughter-in-law had resurfaced with warnings about Beckham's latest target. James glanced at the security camera in the corner, the one he'd personally helped disable during Diana's escape all those years ago. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Cooper requests your presence. The secretary's tone carried an undercurrent of concern. Sarah had been with the company long enough to recognize the signs of approaching storms. Walking to Beckham's office, James passed the portrait gallery of Cooper Industries' history. Harrison's face appeared in each decade's photo, aging gracefully, while the company grew around him. Beside the latest image hung a smaller photo, Catherine Cooper, Beckham's mother, at her swearing in as chief counsel. Her mysterious death had transformed both father and son, though in drastically different ways. Beckham's office occupied the building's crown, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a god's-eye view of Manhattan. The space had been redesigned. After Harrison's stroke, gone were the traditional leather and wood tones, replaced by chrome and glass that reflected Beckham's colder vision of power. "Tell me about Vanessa Mitchell's investigation." Beckham stood at the window, his reflection overlaying the city beyond. "Every detail, James, starting with who helped her access those records." James maintained his professional mask. "As CFO, she has authorized access to all financial data. Her investigation appears to be thorough and independent." "Independent?" Beckham turned, amusement playing across his features. Like Diana's escape was independent, or Catherine's accident. The threat hung in the air between them. James felt the weight of old guilt pressing against his chest. He'd helped Diana escape with evidence of Beckham's first marriage, arranged her new identity through old intelligence contacts. Catherine's death had officially been ruled an accident, but the questions she'd been asking about certain overseas accounts. "Ms. Mitchell is not Diana," James said carefully. "Her concerns are purely professional." "Professional?" Beckham echoed, moving to his desk. "Like these?" He pressed a button, and screens descended from the ceiling. Security footage played across them. James meeting with Harrison in the hospital, encrypted files being transferred, late-night conversations. "With Thomas Chen. You've been busy, old friend." Beckham's voice carried false warmth. "Did you think I wouldn't notice, that I wouldn't remember who taught me to monitor potential threats?" James straightened his spine. "Your father asked me to watch over the company during his recovery. If that means protecting it from unnecessary risks." "Protecting it?" Beckham laughed. "You're protecting nothing but my father's outdated notion of corporate ethics. The world has changed, James. Power isn't about playing by rules, it's about making them." A new image appeared on the screens. James's wife teaching at her elementary school, his daughter leaving her medical residency, his grandson playing in a park. The message was clear. "I respected your loyalty to my father," Beckham continued, "even admired how you helped Diana escape. But this ends now. Vanessa Mitchell either falls in line or she falls. Your choice, which path causes less collateral damage." James felt the years of compromise weighing on his shoulders. Each small concession to Beckham's growing corruption had led to this moment. "She's not someone you can threaten or buy," he said quietly. "She's different. Everyone has a price." Beckham retrieved a file from his desk. Her father's music program funding cut, her mother's catering licenses suddenly under review, her brother's tech startup losing its investors. Humans are disappointingly predictable, James. Pull the right strings. "And you create enemies who know your secrets," James finished. The words escaped before he could stop them. Beckham's smile vanished. "Careful, old man. Remember who taught me about keeping evidence." He pressed another button and security appeared. "Clear out his office. 25 years deserves some dignity. Give him an hour." As security escorted him out, James caught a glimpse of Vanessa through her office window. She was on the phone, her expression suggesting she'd received Diana's message. A plan began forming in his mind. That evening, James sat in his home study, surrounded by family photos. His laptop displayed the contents of a hidden drive, 25 years of documented corruption, secured against this very moment. His phone lit up with a text from an unlisted number. "Secure line ready. D." Diana had built a network of Beckham's victims over the years. Perhaps it was time to activate it. His wife found him staring at Catherine Cooper's old case files. "What are we going to do?" she whispered. James looked at the latest threat from Beckham, a notice of mortgage review from a bank they'd done business with for decades. "We fight," he said quietly. "Not just for ourselves, but for everyone he's destroyed. And we start with protecting Vanessa Mitchell." The rain continued its assault on Manhattan's towers. In his study, James Cooper began composing emails to carefully chosen recipients. Diana's network would provide evidence. Thomas Chen would offer financial support, and Harrison, perhaps it was time to show the elder Cooper exactly what his son had become. Beckham had learned his lessons about power well, perhaps too well, but he'd forgotten the most important one. True loyalty, once betrayed, becomes the most dangerous enemy of all. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin, not for control of Cooper Industries, but for its soul. And James Cooper, who had spent 25 years enabling the creation of a monster, would spend whatever time he had left trying to stop it. The night deepened as James worked, each document and recording carefully prepared. Outside his window, the lights of Manhattan burned like stars, witnesses to the beginning of a war that would reshape not just Cooper Industries, but the very nature of corporate power itself. Chapter 3. The Sacrifice. Thunder rolled across Queens as the Mitchell family gathered in their living room, the antique grandfather clock marking time with solemn precision. Rain lashed against windows that had witnessed 30 years of family milestones, now bearing witness to their darkest hour. James Cooper stood by the fireplace, his usually immaculate suit showing signs of the day's battles. "They're calling. In every loan," he explained, his voice heavy with defeat. "Not just your mortgage. They're targeting everyone. Suppliers who work with Gloria's catering business, venues that book her services, the banks reviewing Michael's startup loans, claiming irregular activities, even the school boards questioning Marcus Mitchell's tenure." Gloria Mitchell pressed a handkerchief to her lips, decades of business building crumbling before her eyes. Her catering company, Mitchell's Finest Flavors, had survived recessions and setbacks, but this was different. This was systematic destruction. The board meeting this morning was just the beginning, James continued, pulling documents from his briefcase. Beckham's already moved to freeze the European investigation. 3 board members who supported Vanessa's findings have received similar threats. Thomas Chen's daughter suddenly lost her position at Goldman Sachs. Michael paced the room, his tech entrepreneur's mind racing through scenarios. "I can move our data offshore, create shells to protect Mom's business accounts, but Beckham's reach..." He paused, running hands through his hair. "He's not just using banks. He's leveraging every corporate connection the family's built over 40 years. Vanessa stood at the window watching lightning split the sky. Her phone displayed Beckham's latest message. "One night, that's my offer. Your family's problems disappear, and everyone gets what they want." The grandfather clock, a wedding gift from her parents' own struggle-filled early days, ticked away precious seconds. Each chime seemed to echo with the weight of impossible choices. "There has to be another way," Marcus Mitchell insisted, the music teacher's normally gentle voice sharp with anger. "We can fight this legally. I have former students who practice law. Any firm strong enough to challenge Beckham is already connected to Cooper Industries," James interrupted softly. "He's spent years building a network of influence. Law firms, banks, regulators, they're all tangled in his web." Vanessa turned from the window, her mind racing through options. The encrypted files from Diana Cooper had revealed the pattern. Each of Beckham's previous wives had faced similar pressure. Family businesses destroyed, careers derailed, lives systematically dismantled. But they'd faced him alone. "Tell me about Catherine Cooper's accident," she said suddenly, watching James's reaction. Diana's files mentioned inconsistencies in the investigation. The former executive's face paled. Catherine was brilliant. As chief counsel, she started questioning certain international transactions. A week later, her car's brakes failed on The Taconic Parkway. The official report blamed mechanical failure, but she kept records, Vanessa finished. Like Diana did, like I have. Understanding dawned in Michael's eyes. The encrypted server. You weren't just documenting financial irregularities. Vanessa nodded. Every threat, every pressure point, every connection he's using against us. It's all documented. Diana's network has been gathering evidence for years. We just needed someone inside Cooper Industries with access to prove the pattern. Gloria stood, maternal instinct warring. With pride, baby, no, what you're suggesting is he's dangerous. Catherine Cooper died because she challenged him. Catherine worked alone, Vanessa countered. Diana tried to fight him through legal channels, but we have something they didn't. A network of witnesses, documented evidence, and most importantly, his ego. She moved to her laptop, fingers flying across keys as she accessed secured files. Beckham believes this is about power, his ability to take what he wants, but he's never faced organized resistance. Every person he's destroyed, every life he's ruined, they're all connected now, waiting. James stepped forward, hope flickering in his tired eyes. Diana's network. How many? 23 former executives, 48 displaced employees, 16 family members of people who challenged him, all documented, all willing to testify. But we need something concrete, something that proves the pattern beyond doubt. Implications hung in the air as thunder shook the windows. Vanessa's phone buzzed again. Car arrives at 8 p.m. Wear something elegant. One night changes everything. No. Marcus Mitchell's voice cracked. There has to be another way. We'll sell the house, move somewhere else. He'll follow, Vanessa said softly. He's not just trying to silence my investigation anymore. This is about proving his power. If we run, he wins, and the next person who challenges him will face worse. Michael gripped his sister's hand. Then we fight. I can enhance the security on our documents, create backup servers. No. Vanessa's voice carried newfound steel. We let him think he's won. Let him believe his power is absolute, because men like Beckham Cooper are never more vulnerable than when they believe they're invincible. She outlined her plan as rain pounded against the windows. Each detail built upon years of gathered evidence, creating a trap baited with the one thing Beckham couldn't resist, the chance to demonstrate his absolute power. Diana's network is standing by, she explained. The moment I enter his estate, everything activates. Every victim, every witness, every piece of evidence, it all goes to carefully chosen recipients. Federal prosecutors who aren't in his pocket. International investigators beyond his reach. And most importantly, to Harrison Cooper himself. James nodded slowly. Harrison's stroke. It wasn't just age and stress, was it? Medical records suggest gradual poisoning, Vanessa confirmed. Small doses of untraceable toxins administered by someone with intimate access. Catherine found the evidence before her accident. Diana compiled more. I found the final proof in the European accounts. The grandfather clock struck 7. Its chimes a countdown to confrontation. Gloria held her daughter close, tears falling freely. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll come back. Vanessa breathed in her mother's familiar scent. Vanilla extract and strength. I promise. But when I do, everything will be different. Not just for us, but for everyone he's ever hurt. She withdrew from her mother's embrace and moved to her room to prepare. The black evening gown laid out on her bed wasn't just elegant. It was armored with hidden recording devices, courtesy of Diana's network. Every moment would be documented, every word preserved. As she dressed, Vanessa thought of Catherine Cooper, whose death had planted the seeds of Beckham's downfall, of Diana, whose escape had created the blueprint for resistance. of every person whose life had been shattered by a man who mistook wealth for worth. Tonight, she would walk into the lion's den. But unlike those before her, she wouldn't go as prey. She would go as the hunter, armed with truth and backed by an army of shadows, all those who had waited years for this moment of justice. The rain continued its assault on Queens, nature's percussion marking time until the coming storm. In the Mitchell home, a family held each other close, their love a fortress against the gathering dark. And at its center, Vanessa Mitchell prepared to prove that true strength isn't measured in what you can take, but in what you're willing to risk for justice. Chapter 4. The night Beckham Cooper's countryside estate loomed against the stormy horizon, its Georgian architecture a monument to old money trying to imitate ancient power. Lightning illuminated the manicured grounds where security cameras tracked Vanessa's arrival, their red lights blinking like predatory eyes in the gathering dark. The black Mercedes purred to a stop at the main entrance, where marble steps gleamed wet with rain. Inside, the mansion breathed wealth. Italian marble floors, crystal chandeliers worth more than most homes, art pieces selected for price rather than passion. The Great Hall's burgundy walls displayed hunting trophies, a crude metaphor for Beckham's approach to business and life. Beautiful evening for a surrender, Beckham's voice carried from the study doorway. He stood backlit by a massive fireplace, crystal tumbler in hand. The room behind him was a carefully curated display of power. First editions never read, global artifacts never appreciated, awards bought rather than earned. Vanessa stepped into the firelight, her black evening gown catching golden reflections. Diana's network had chosen well. The dress concealed recording devices while drawing attention to her confidence rather than vulnerability. "Is that what you think this is?" "What else?" He gestured to a leather armchair. "Your family's financial troubles, mounting pressure from all sides, then my generous offer of resolution." His smile didn't reach his eyes, a tale as old as commerce itself. Like Catherine's story, Vanessa watched his expression flicker. Or Diana's? Or the others whose lives you've destroyed to prove your power? The crystal tumbler paused halfway, to his lips. "Careful, Miss Mitchell. Tonight's outcome depends entirely on your cooperation." "Does it?" She moved to the window, watching rain trace patterns on bulletproof glass. "Tell me about the European accounts, Beckham. About the shell companies laundering money for arms dealers. About the offshore accounts filtering funds back to private holdings." "Business requires flexible ethics," he said smoothly. But uncertainty had crept into his voice. "Surely a CFO of your caliber understands that." "I understand pattern recognition." Vanessa turned to face him. "Each of your wives discovered pieces of the puzzle. Catherine found the weapons connections. Diana uncovered the human trafficking links. The others each saw fragments of your true enterprise." Beckham's composure slipped slightly. "You've been talking to Diana." "Diana, Angela, Sarah, Michelle, all your ex-wives are quite communicative these days. Amazing what shared trauma can inspire." She withdrew a small device from her clutch. "Would you like to hear Catherine's last recording, the one she made the day before her accident?" The study's temperature seemed to drop. Beckham set his glass down with controlled precision. "You're bluffing. Like you bluffed about my family's financial troubles." Vanessa activated the device. Catherine Cooper's voice filled the room, discussing specific transactions, dates, account numbers. "She was thorough, your stepmother. Chief counsels usually are." That recording died with her. Beckham's mask cracked further. "Digital data never truly dies. Ask Diana's network, the one that's been gathering evidence since Catherine's murder. The one that includes former executives, displaced employees, destroyed families, all waiting for this moment." His laugh held an edge of desperation. Evidence means nothing without power to enforce it. Every judge, every regulator, every legal, a firm reports to someone beyond your reach, Vanessa finished. The International Criminal Court doesn't care about your local connections. Europol isn't impressed by Manhattan social circles. And Harrison Cooper, how do you think your father will react to proof that his son murdered his wife? Beckham moved with sudden violence, grabbing her arm. You think you can threaten me in my own home with some pathetic attempt at blackmail? Vanessa met his gaze steadily. This isn't blackmail, Beckham. It's justice. Every word we speak, every move you make, it's being recorded, transmitted to secure servers. Diana's network is standing by. One signal from me and everything goes public. Then why come here? His grip tightened. Why risk everything for one night? Because you need to understand that power isn't what you think it is. She pulled free. Real power isn't in what you can take, but in what you can't break. Every person you've destroyed, they're stronger together than you ever were alone. The security monitors behind his desk suddenly flickered to life. Faces appeared. Diana, Angela, Sarah, Michelle, joined by former executives, displaced employees, destroyed partners. Each held evidence, each ready to testify. Impossible, Beckham whispered. No, Vanessa corrected. Inevitable. The moment you threatened my family, you activated a network built on the ashes of everyone you've burned. We've been waiting, gathering evidence, building cases. Tonight wasn't your victory, Beckham. It was your exposure. She moved to the desk, pressed a sequence of keys. Files began transferring, encrypted data flowing to multiple secure locations. By morning, federal agents will have everything. International prosecutors too. But most importantly, Harrison Cooper will know exactly what happened to Catherine. Beckham lunged for the computer, but the transfer was already complete. Outside, lightning-illuminated security vehicles approaching the estate, not his private force, but federal agents coordinated by Diana's network. You'll regret this, he snarled, reaching for a hidden drawer. Like Catherine regretted investigating you, like Diana regretted escaping you. Vanessa's voice carried absolute certainty. Your kind of power only works in shadows, Beckham. We've spent years building a spotlight. The study door burst open as federal agents entered, led by investigators who'd been building cases for years. Beckham Cooper, who had spent a lifetime believing in his own invincibility, watched his empire crumble in real time. Vanessa gathered her belongings with deliberate calm. "One night changes everything," she quoted his words back to him. "You just didn't understand what kind of change was coming." As she walked out of the study, her phone lit up with confirmations from Diana's network. Evidence delivered, testimonies filed, cases activated across multiple jurisdictions, years of documented abuse, financial crimes, and corporate terrorism, all exposed in a single coordinated strike. The rain had softened to a gentle cleansing as she emerged from the mansion. Justice, like healing, sometimes requires storm before calm. Behind her, Beckham Cooper faced the consequences of believing that power meant never having to answer for one's actions. Her family waited at home, surrounded by Diana's network members, who'd helped coordinate the operation. Together, they would rebuild what Beckham had tried to destroy. But more importantly, they would help others find the strength to stand against corporate tyranny. The night had indeed changed everything, not through surrender to power, but through the triumph of collective courage over individual corruption. Chapter 5. The Escape. 6 weeks after the night at Beckham's estate, Vanessa stood in her bathroom staring at the third pregnancy test that week. The morning sun filtered through frosted glass, illuminating 2 blue lines that would change everything. Her grandmother's words echoed in her memory. Sometimes blessings come disguised as complications. The first signs of Beckham's retaliation had appeared within days of their confrontation. Despite the evidence secured by Diana's network, his reach proved deeper than anticipated. Key witnesses faced sudden accidents. Digital evidence vanished from secure servers. Even federal agents involved in the initial raid found themselves reassigned to remote locations. "We need to disappear," Michael announced during a secure video call, his face tense with concern. Beckham's hired a private intelligence firm, former CIA operators specializing in corporate extraction. They're not just looking for evidence anymore. They're hunting people. Vanessa's hand rested protectively over her stomach as she processed the implications. The pregnancy changed everything, not just their timeline, but the entire stakes of their fight. This wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about protecting a new life from Beckham's vengeance. Their grandmother's property in Port Antonio, Jamaica, emerged as the perfect sanctuary. The small colonial house, perched on a cliff overlooking the Caribbean, had been off official records for decades. More importantly, it sat in a community where privacy was respected and questions went unasked. The escape required precision that would have impressed even Beckham. Michael engineered a digital smokescreen, false trails leading to London, Singapore, Dubai. Gloria activated her catering network, using food delivery routes to transfer documents and resources. Marcus Mitchell converted his music program's international connections into an underground railroad of safe houses. Diana's network proved invaluable, providing secure channels and temporary identities. Former victims of Beckham's machinations now became architects of escape, each contributing expertise earned through their own survival. Their departure unfolded across multiple continents. Gloria and Marcus flew to Toronto, then caught a series of connecting flights through the Caribbean. Michael disappeared into the digital underground, surfacing briefly in Hong Kong before vanishing into encrypted networks. Vanessa herself took the most dangerous route, directly challenging Beckham's surveillance by appearing in public places, drawing his attention while the family slipped away. The final phase began on a stormy November night. While Beckham's operatives tracked a decoy heading to London, Vanessa boarded a private medical transport arranged by one of Catherine Cooper's old friends. The flight plan listed a wealthy patient seeking treatment in the Bahamas. Instead, it landed on a private airstrip outside Port Antonio, where morning mist provided natural cover. The house exceeded her memories. Bougainvillea cascaded over weathered walls, and the constant rhythm of waves provided nature's lullaby. Inside, generations of family history created an atmosphere of safety, photographs of strong women who'd faced their own battles, books filled with wisdom passed down through ages. Dr. Maria Santos, a discreet physician recommended by Diana's network, confirmed the pregnancy and became their first local ally. The older woman's eyes held understanding, born of treating other families seeking fresh starts. "Your grandmother helped my mother establish her practice here," she revealed. "We repay our debts." The local community absorbed them without fanfare. Gloria's cooking skills earned immediate respect at the market, where vendors soon saved the best produce for her creative fusion dishes. Marcus discovered a natural audience for his music among local children, his lessons becoming impromptu. Concerts on the beach. Michael established secure communications through a network of small internet cafes, each owner part of an informal information network dating back to colonial resistance. Vanessa spent mornings on the veranda, watching fishing boats dot the horizon while planning their eventual return. Diana's network continued gathering evidence, building an airtight case that even Beckham's influence couldn't dismantle. Each piece was stored in multiple locations, protected by encryption that would make intelligence agencies envious. The pregnancy progressed under Caribbean skies, each milestone marked by both joy and strategic planning. The baby's first kick coincided with news that a key witness had successfully relocated to protected status. The first ultrasound came the same day they received confirmation that international prosecutors had opened a preliminary investigation into Cooper Industries' global operations. Local craftsmen, hearing whispers of their story, contributed to preparing for the baby's arrival. An ancient woodworker carved a cradle from local cedar, incorporating protective symbols from Jamaica's rich cultural heritage. Market women shared generational wisdom about childbirth and healing, their knowledge, untainted by corporate influence. December brought changes to the house's security. Michael installed cutting-edge systems disguised as traditional fixtures. Solar panels powered independent communications equipment. Emergency routes were established through the dense jungle behind the property. Every precaution balanced protection with preparation for their eventual return. News from New York arrived through secure channels. Beckham's frustration at losing their trail manifested in increasingly erratic behavior. Cooper Industries' stock fluctuated as rumors of federal investigations surfaced. Harrison Cooper, recovering from his stroke, began asking uncomfortable questions about Catherine's accident. The baby's movements grew stronger, each kick a reminder of life's persistence in the face of adversity. Vanessa wrote constantly, documenting everything, not just evidence of corruption, but the human cost of unchecked corporate power. Her manifesto evolved into something more, a blueprint for systemic change. Local legends spoke of the house as a sanctuary for generations of strong women. Now it sheltered another, preparing to add her own chapter to its history. The baby would be born into a legacy of resistance and resilience, surrounded by a network of protection that Beckham's money couldn't penetrate. As her due date approached, Vanessa received word that Diana's network had succeeded in removing key documents from Cooper Industries' secure storage. The evidence of Catherine's murder was now safely preserved, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The Caribbean seasons flowed one into another, marked not by temperature, but by subtle shifts in wind and rain. Each dawn brought them closer to justice. Each sunset confirmed the wisdom of their strategic retreat. This wasn't surrender. It was preparation for a battle that would reshape corporate accountability forever. In the end, Port Antonio gave them more than sanctuary. It provided perspective, showing how power built on fear eventually crumbles before power built on truth. As Vanessa's body changed with the growing life within, her resolve strengthened. They would return, not as victims seeking justice, but as warriors bringing change. The baby moved beneath her heart, strong and determined. Like its mother, it would be born into a world of struggle but surrounded by love and protection. Together, they would prove that the greatest power isn't in destruction, but in the courage to create something new from the ashes of the old. Chapter 6. The Return. Manhattan's skyline pierced a September dawn like steel thorns against rose gold silk. 2 years of strategic exile had reshaped both the city and its prodigal daughters and sons. New towers reached skyward while others had fallen, much like the power dynamics they'd left behind. Vanessa Mitchell stood at JFK's arrival gate, her 2-year-old son David secure in her arms, watching their carefully orchestrated return unfold. The past week had seen Diana's network activate sleeper cells throughout the city's infrastructure. Sympathetic customs agents, airport security personnel touched by similar corporate abuse, even air traffic controllers who'd lost pensions to Cooper Industries' machinations, each played their role in ensuring safe passage. Their arrival. Strategy had been months in planning. Michael had flown in 3 days earlier, establishing a sophisticated security network throughout their new Brooklyn brownstone. The property, purchased through a labyrinth of shell companies that would take Beckham's investigators weeks to unravel, sat in a neighborhood where community solidarity still meant something. Gloria and Marcus Mitchell had returned separately, re-establishing their presence in Queens through a web of trusted allies. Gloria's catering business, now incorporating Caribbean influences, provided perfect cover for network communications. Marcus's music program served as a natural gathering point for community intelligence. The brownstone welcomed them with warm light and familiar scents, Gloria's cooking already permeating the space. David's room had been prepared with details from their Jamaican sanctuary. Hand-carved furniture from Port Antonio's craftsmen, walls painted the exact shade of Caribbean morning sky, and most importantly, multiple escape routes disguised as child-friendly architecture. Security systems are active, Michael reported from his command center in the converted basement. Screens displayed feeds from cameras throughout the neighborhood, each monitored by trusted network members. Beckham's people swept the area last week, but they're looking for individuals, not community resistance. The legal team awaited them. In the study, a carefully selected group of attorneys who'd each faced corporate giants and emerged stronger. Their leader, a brilliant civil rights lawyer who'd made his name dismantling discriminatory practices, had spent months building their case foundation. The evidence preservation worked, he explained, spreading documents across an antique Jamaican mahogany desk. Diana's network kept everything secure, but more importantly, we've built something new, a pattern of systematic corporate terrorism that extends beyond single instances of harassment. Vanessa settled David with his toys in a specially designed play area, watching him arrange wooden animals carved by Port Antonio's artisans. Each piece contained a microscopic tracker, another layer of protection disguised as normalcy. The legal strategy had evolved during their exile. What began as a harassment case had grown into something more profound, a challenge to the very foundation of corporate immunity. Every document, every witness statement, every piece of evidence told part of a larger story, how power without accountability becomes terrorism in expensive suits. Beckham's been busy while you were gone, the lead attorney continued. 3 more marriages, each shorter than the last, but he's getting sloppy. His last wife managed to record conversations about Catherine's murder before she disappeared. Disappeared? Vanessa's attention sharpened. Into Diana's network. She's safe in Vancouver, adding her evidence to the pile. But that's not the most interesting development. He retrieved a file marked with federal seals. Harrison Cooper's stroke. The toxicology reports finally came back. The same compound found in Catherine's system before her accident. The implications hung heavy in the air. Beckham hadn't just killed his stepmother. He'd been slowly poisoning his father, ensuring complete control of Cooper Industries. But Harrison had survived, and now, with proper treatment, his mental faculties were returning. The old man remembers things, Michael added, joining them with fresh intelligence. Fragments of conversations, suspicious meetings. He's been secretly cooperating with federal investigators for months. Their strategy sessions stretched into evening. As city lights began to twinkle across the river, they refined their approach. The lawsuit would be multi-pronged: corporate terrorism, systematic harassment, financial corruption, and most explosively, multiple counts of attempted murder. The next morning brought their first public move. Vanessa walked into the federal courthouse to file initial papers, David's hand held firmly in hers. Network members, disguised as ordinary citizens, provided invisible security. Cameras captured her confident stride, her son's innocent presence a stark contrast to the dark allegations contained in their filings. Beckham's response came within hours. Stock prices tumbled as rumors of federal investigations leaked. Corporate raiders, sensing weakness, began circling Cooper Industries. But more telling was the sudden series of accidents befalling potential witnesses, all thwarted by Diana's network's careful preparation. The true power of their strategy lay not in single actions, but in coordination. While federal agents raided Cooper Industries' offshore offices, international prosecutors moved against their European holdings. As Beckham's lawyers scrambled to respond to the lawsuit, regulatory agencies launched simultaneous investigations into decades of violations. David adapted to city life with the resilience of youth, but Vanessa noted how he maintained awareness, learned in their island sanctuary. He automatically checked sightlines in new spaces, gravitated toward defensible positions in rooms, and never fully turned his back on doors. Habits that would have seemed paranoid in any other child, but were survival instincts in theirs. Their Brooklyn neighborhood proved an unexpected asset. The community, largely immigrant families who understood oppression's many faces, formed an informal watchdog network. Street vendors reported suspicious vehicles. Bodega owners monitored unfamiliar faces. Even the local kids incorporated David into their games while maintaining protective formation around him. The legal team worked from a converted warehouse in Dumbo, its industrial exterior hiding a state-of-the-art command center. Here, decades of corporate abuse were transformed into evidence, witness statements into weapons, pain into purpose. Each day brought new allies, former employees, displaced executives, destroyed families, all adding their voices to the growing chorus demanding justice. As September drew to a close, Vanessa stood on their brownstone's roof garden, watching sunset paint Manhattan in colors reminiscent of Jamaican twilight. David played nearby, his wooden animals arranged in complex patterns that mimicked the security formations protecting them. Tomorrow would bring the first court appearance, the formal beginning of their battle for justice. But tonight, surrounded by the network they'd built and the love they'd protected, Vanessa Mitchell allowed herself to feel not just determination, but hope. They'd returned, not as victims seeking justice, but as architects of change demanding accountability. The power dynamics that had forced their exile would now face something stronger than wealth or influence, the collective strength of those who'd refused to be broken. David's laughter carried on the evening breeze, a reminder of why they fought. This wasn't just about punishment or revenge. It was about building a world where power served humanity rather than crushed it, where justice wasn't a commodity to be bought, but a right to be protected. The city stretched before them, its lights beginning to sparkle like earthbound stars. Somewhere in that urban galaxy, Beckham Cooper prepared his defenses, unaware that his true opponent wasn't a single woman seeking justice, but an entire movement demanding change. Tomorrow would begin the next phase of their battle, but tonight belonged to quiet preparation, to gentle moments between mother and son, to the peace that comes from knowing that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in fighting power, but in transforming it. Chapter 7. The Trial. The New York Supreme Court building stood sentinel in the October morning light, its granite columns casting long shadows across the gathering crowd. News vans lined Center Street, satellite dishes reaching skyward like mechanical flowers seeking the sun. The steps had become a makeshift amphitheater where reporters from across the globe awaited the trial that would reshape corporate America. Inside courtroom 2B, generations of legal history watched from oil portraits as modern justice prepared to unfold. The prosecution's table bristled with evidence boxes, each one containing carefully catalogued documentation of Beckham Cooper's systematic abuse of power. The mahogany walls had witnessed countless battles, but few with such far-reaching implications. Judge Elena Rodriguez entered precisely at 9 a.m., her reputation for fairness and zero tolerance for corporate malfeasance preceding her. The packed gallery rose, then settled into expectant silence as she reviewed the preliminary documents. Her first ruling had already made headlines, allowing cameras in the courtroom in the interest of public accountability. The prosecution's opening statement painted a devastating portrait of corporate terrorism. Evidence screens displayed timelines of harassment, financial records revealing systematic destruction of lives, bank documents exposing coordinated attacks on anyone who challenged Beckham's authority. Diana Cooper's testimony came first, her quiet dignity captivating the jury. She detailed her discovery of Catherine's murder investigation, her own narrow escape, and the years spent building a network of survivors. Under cross-examination, Beckham's attorneys tried to paint her as a bitter ex-wife, but her evidence proved unshakable. James Cooper's testimony on day 3 brought unexpected depth to the case. The former executive's detailed account of witnessing Beckham's evolution from promising heir to corporate predator left even veteran courtroom reporters reaching for tissues. His revelation of Harrison Cooper's poisoning sent shockwaves through the corporate world. The medical evidence proved devastating. Dr. Elena Santos, who had treated Harrison Cooper after his stroke, presented toxicology reports showing long-term poisoning. The same compounds appeared in Catherine Cooper's autopsy results, linking both attacks to Beckham's systematic elimination of threats. Technology played a crucial role. Michael Mitchell's security expertise transformed digital evidence into compelling demonstrations. Bank records, surveillance footage, and encrypted communications became a tapestry of corruption that even Beckham's best attorneys couldn't unravel. Gloria Mitchell's testimony humanized the impact of corporate terrorism. Her description of how Beckham's retaliation had threatened not just businesses, but entire communities resonated with jurors who'd seen similar tactics in their own lives. The gallery wept as she described her daughter's courage in facing down not just one man, but an entire system of abuse. The trial's turning point came when Harrison Cooper himself took the stand. Though still weakened by years of poisoning, his testimony carried the weight of dynastic accountability. "I built this company to create value," he stated, his voice trembling with emotion, "not to destroy lives. My son perverted everything we stood for." Beckham's defense strategy crumbled under the weight of accumulated evidence. His lead attorney, a legendary corporate lawyer who'd never lost a case, found herself unable to explain away the pattern of destruction. Each attempt to discredit witnesses only revealed new layers of corruption. The media dubbed it the trial of the century, but that understated its significance. This wasn't just about one corporation or one man's crimes. It was about challenging the very nature of corporate power. Each day's testimony added another crack to the facade of corporate immunity. International coverage brought unexpected allies. Witnesses appeared from across the globe: European bankers, Asian executives, South American officials, each adding evidence of Cooper Industries' systematic corruption. The case expanded beyond American jurisdiction, triggering investigations on 4 continents. Vanessa's testimony spanned 5 days, her comprehensive documentation of corporate terrorism proving unassailable. She wove together threads from every witness, creating a tapestry of truth that even Beckham's billions couldn't unravel. Her account of the night at his estate, supported by surveillance footage and audio recordings, exposed the raw mechanics of power corrupted. David's presence in the courtroom gallery during key moments reminded everyone of the human stakes. The child's innocent questions about proceedings often cut to the heart of complex issues. "Why did the bad man hurt so many people, Mama?" he asked one day, his voice carrying in a quiet moment. The question haunted headlines for weeks. Corporate America watched in growing alarm as each day revealed new vulnerabilities in their standard operating procedures. Reform committees sprang up spontaneously across industries. Whistleblower protections were hastily implemented. Companies rushed to establish ethics oversight before they became the next target. The defense's final desperate move backfired spectacularly. They attempted to portray Beckham as a victim of conspiracy, but their star witness, his fourth wife, broke down under cross-examination and confirmed every allegation. Her testimony about her own narrow escape added another layer to the pattern of abuse. As the trial entered its final week, the gallery had grown to include representatives from regulatory agencies, corporate reform advocates, and survivors of similar abuse from other companies. Each day's proceedings were analyzed in law schools, business schools, and corporate boardrooms across the globe. Judge Rodriguez's instructions to the jury emphasized the historic nature of their duty. "You are not just deciding one case," she explained. "You are establishing precedent for how our society handles the intersection of power and responsibility." The jury's deliberation lasted 3 days. When they filed back into the courtroom, their faces carried the weight of revolution. The foreperson, a retired schoolteacher who'd lost her pension to corporate manipulation, stood with quiet determination. In the matter of Mitchell versus Cooper Industries, on the count of corporate terrorism, how do you find? Guilty. Each subsequent verdict landed like hammer blows on the edifice of corporate impunity. Guilty of murder, guilty of systematic harassment, guilty of financial terrorism, guilty of conspiracy to commit corporate fraud. Judge Rodriguez's sentencing statement would be quoted in law schools for generations. "Power without accountability isn't leadership, it's tyranny." This court sentences Beckham Cooper not just to punitive damages and restrictions, but to the knowledge that his legacy will serve as a warning to others who mistake wealth for immunity. As federal agents led Beckham Cooper from the courtroom, Vanessa gathered her family close. They had done more than win a case. They had changed the very landscape of corporate accountability. Diana's network had emerged from shadows to become a formal organization dedicated to corporate reform. The Mitchell Foundation would carry their work forward, ensuring that no other family would face corporate terrorism alone. Outside, October sunlight painted the courthouse steps in autumn gold. Justice, like healing, comes not in single moments, but in steady progression toward light. The trial had ended, but its echoes would reshape corporate America for generations to come. Chapter 8. The Verdict. The morning after the trial's conclusion dawned with historic significance. The New York Times headline spread across 6 columns. Cooper Empire Falls, landmark verdict reshapes corporate America. Inside the Mitchell family's Brooklyn brownstone, Vanessa sat in her grandmother's restored rocking chair, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of victory, while headlines continued to flood her tablet. Wall Street Journal. Cooper Industries ordered to pay record $2.8 billion settlement. Financial Times. Corporate titans fall signals new era of accountability. Bloomberg. Jury awards. Mitchell 50% of Cooper's personal fortune. Corporate reform mandated. The verdict's implications rippled through global financial markets like aftershocks from an earthquake. Cooper Industries stock had plunged in after hours trading, triggering circuit breakers and emergency board meetings. Across the corporate world, companies scrambled to implement ethics reforms, desperate to avoid becoming the next target of public scrutiny. Judge Rodriguez's complete ruling filled 300 pages, each one a careful dissection of corporate abuse and its consequences. The financial penalties were staggering. 50% of Beckham's personal fortune, separate from company assets, would be transferred to Vanessa. But the true victory lay in the precedents established by the verdict. Beyond monetary punishment, the ruling mandated structural changes that would reshape corporate governance forever. Beckham was barred from serving as an officer or director of any public company for life. Cooper Industries would be required to establish an independent ethics board with real power to investigate and prevent abuse. Most significantly, the ruling established new legal standards for corporate responsibility that would influence cases for decades to come. The basement command center hummed with activity as Michael coordinated with Diana's network, now emerging from the shadows to become a formal watchdog organization. Screens displayed real-time updates from corporate boardrooms worldwide as companies rushed to implement reforms before shareholders demanded action. Harrison Cooper, watching from his hospital room, issued a public statement that sent additional shockwaves through the business community. He announced the creation of the Catherine Cooper Memorial Fund for Corporate Ethics, seeded with his personal fortune. The fund would support whistleblowers and finance investigations into corporate abuse. Global reaction exceeded all expectations. The European Union fast-tracked new corporate accountability legislation. Asian markets implemented stricter oversight regulations. Even traditionally secretive financial havens began reviewing their privacy laws in light of how they'd been used to shield corporate terrorism. In the brownstone's kitchen, Gloria prepared a celebration feast that blended all the cultures that had supported their journey. Caribbean spices mixed with New York sophistication, creating something entirely new, much like the corporate landscape they'd helped create. David played nearby, his wooden animals now arranged in celebratory formations rather than defensive positions. The legal team gathered in the study, already preparing for the next phase. The verdict had created a template for corporate reform, but implementation would require constant vigilance. International investigations sparked by trial evidence were just beginning, promising years of continued revelation and reform. Media requests flooded in from around the world. Vanessa's story had transcended simple corporate drama to become a symbol of resistance against systemic abuse. Production companies bid for rights to adapt their journey, but Vanessa had other plans. Her manuscript, written during their Jamaican exile, would become a blueprint for corporate reform. James Cooper arrived with news from Cooper Industries' emergency board meeting. The company would be restructured entirely, with the ethics board taking unprecedented oversight powers. He had been asked to lead the transition, ensuring that the reforms wouldn't be mere window dressing. The verdict's most immediate impact appeared in unexpected places. Corporate recruiters reported increased emphasis on ethical track records over profit margins. Business schools rushed to revise curricula, adding mandatory ethics courses. Law firms specialized in corporate accountability sprouted across global financial centers. Diana's network transformed into the Corporate Accountability Alliance, with offices opening in major cities worldwide. Their first action, establishing a secure platform for whistleblowers to report corporate abuse without fear of retaliation. Thousands of tips flooded in within hours of launch. The brownstone's rooftop garden became a sanctuary for reflection. As evening approached, Vanessa watched David playing with the children of network members, their laughter a reminder of why they'd fought so hard. The next generation would grow up in a world where corporate power answered to human values. Financial analysts worked overtime, calculating the verdict's economic impact. Beyond the immediate penalties, the new accountability standards would fundamentally change how companies operated. Some predicted economic slowdown, others argued that ethical business would prove more sustainable long-term. Harrison Cooper's recovery accelerated once freed from Beckham's poisoning. His testimony had proven crucial, but his post-verdict actions showed true redemption. The Catherine Cooper Memorial Fund would ensure that his wife's death continued driving positive change. The Mitchell Foundation took shape in the days following the verdict, its mission expanding beyond corporate reform to address systemic inequality. Vanessa's experience had shown how corporate abuse disproportionately affected vulnerable communities. The foundation would work to level the playing field. International prosecutors moved quickly to act on evidence revealed during the trial. Investigations opened across multiple jurisdictions, examining decades of corporate manipulation. The verdict had removed the shield of plausible deniability that had protected abusive practices. David's questions about the verdict revealed wisdom beyond his years. "Did we make the bad man stop hurting people?" he asked one evening. The answer was more complex than a simple yes. They'd done something far more important. They'd created a system to prevent others from causing similar harm. The verdict's most profound impact was cultural. Corporate power had long seemed untouchable, its abuse accepted as the cost of doing business. The Mitchell case proved that collective action could challenge even the most entrenched systems of corruption. As night fell over Brooklyn, Vanessa gathered with her family on the rooftop garden. City lights twinkled across the river, each one representing a story of struggle and hope. Their victory hadn't just changed laws or corporate structures, it had restored faith in the possibility of justice. David released his wooden lion into a new arrangement, no longer defending against threats, but leading a parade of celebration. His innocent gesture captured the transformation they'd achieved. Power needn't corrupt when properly balanced by accountability and human values. The verdict had done more than transfer wealth or punish wrongdoing. It had proven that integrity, armed with truth and determination, could reshape the very foundations of power. As her family gathered for their private celebration, Vanessa understood that their victory was not an ending, but a beginning. Chapter 9. The Redemption. Winter settled over New York like a blank canvas, snow transforming the urban landscape into something pure and possibility-filled. 6 months had passed since the verdict, and the Mitchell Foundation for Corporate Ethics had already begun to reshape the landscape of American business in ways that exceeded even their most optimistic projections. The Foundation's headquarters occupied an entire floor of a renovated textile factory in Brooklyn's Dumbo district. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of Manhattan's skyline, including the Cooper Industries Tower, now undergoing its own transformation under new leadership. The open concept office buzzed with energy as lawyers, researchers, and advocates worked to support other victims of corporate abuse. Vanessa's office, a corner space filled with natural light and Caribbean-inspired artwork, had become a sanctuary for those seeking justice. This morning, she sat across from Sarah Chen, a former executive who had reached out for help in exposing systematic discrimination at her former company. The woman's story echoed familiar themes of power abused and lives disrupted. "I never thought I'd find the courage," Sarah admitted, clutching a manila envelope filled with evidence. "But then I read about your case, about how you stood up to Beckham Cooper. It made me realize we don't have to accept abuse as the price of success." The Foundation's legal team, led by a diverse group of attorneys personally selected through Diana's network, had already taken on dozens of cases. Each victory added another brick to the wall of corporate accountability they were building. But their work went beyond individual cases. They were changing the very culture of American business. Educational programs reached into business schools, teaching future leaders about ethical leadership and responsibility. Corporate governance workshops helped companies establish genuine accountability measures. A whistleblower protection program provided safe channels for exposing workplace abuse. The transformation of Cooper Industries served as their most visible success story. Under James Cooper's guidance as head of the Ethics Committee, the company had implemented sweeping reforms. Quarterly ethics audits, mandatory leadership training, and a zero-tolerance policy for harassment had become model practices for other corporations. Most surprising was Beckham's own transformation. Reports from the women's shelter in the Bronx, where he served his community service, spoke of gradual but significant change. Working directly with victims of abuse had stripped away his armor of privilege, forcing him to confront the human cost of power misused. The Foundation's latest initiative, the Tomorrow's Leaders program, focused on mentoring young professionals from underprivileged backgrounds. The conference room was filled with eager faces as Vanessa shared her vision of ethical business leadership. "Success isn't measured by what you acquire," she told the assembled group, "but by what you give back. Each of you has the potential to reshape your industries, to prove that ethics and excellence aren't mutually exclusive." Diana's network had evolved into a global force for corporate reform. Their secure communication platform now connected whistleblowers across continents, while their investigation teams worked with regulatory agencies worldwide. The pattern of abuse they documented at Cooper Industries had helped identify similar situations in other companies. The Foundation's work attracted unexpected allies. Former corporate raiders now offered their expertise in identifying potential abuse. Investment banks established ethical compliance departments. Law firms created pro bono divisions specifically to support corporate accountability cases. Michael's security systems had become an industry standard, adopted by organizations, protecting whistleblowers worldwide. His team had developed sophisticated methods of preserving evidence and protecting witnesses, turning technology into a shield for truth rather than a weapon of suppression. Gloria's catering business had expanded to include a training program for survivors of corporate abuse, teaching culinary skills while providing a supportive community. Her kitchen became a place of healing and empowerment, where women shared stories of survival while learning to create something new. The Foundation's research division documented everything, building a comprehensive database of corporate abuse, patterns, and effective countermeasures. Their findings influenced policy decisions at national and international levels, while their recommendations shaped new corporate governance standards. International expansion brought new challenges and opportunities. Offices in London, Singapore, and Kingston operated as independent but connected entities, each adapting the Foundation's methods to local contexts while maintaining global coordination through Diana's network. Harrison Cooper's recovery had progressed remarkably since Beckham's conviction. Free from the effects of long-term poisoning, he devoted himself to supporting the Foundation's work. His insights into corporate power dynamics proved invaluable in developing preventive strategies. The Catherine Cooper Memorial Fund, established with Harrison's personal fortune, provided crucial support for corporate abuse survivors. Catherine's dream of ethical corporate leadership was finally being realized, though not in the way anyone could have predicted. David thrived in this environment of purpose and positive change. His presence in the Foundation's offices reminded everyone of why their work mattered. He had grown from a symbol of survival into an embodiment of hope, his innocent questions often cutting through complex ethical discussions to reveal simple truths. The Foundation's art therapy program, inspired by David's connection to his wooden animals, helped other children process their families' experiences with corporate abuse. The walls displayed their artwork, pictures of justice and healing seen through young eyes. Vanessa's manuscript had become a bestseller, its raw honesty about corporate abuse sparking global conversations about power and responsibility. Business schools made it required reading, while corporate boards studied it for insights into preventing similar situations. The Foundation's work attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Religious leaders sought their advice on ethical investment. Environmental groups recognized parallel patterns in corporate environmental abuse. Labor organizations found new tools for protecting workers' rights. Their success inspired similar organizations worldwide. The Mitchell model, as it became known, provided a template for combining legal action, community support, and systemic reform. Each new organization added its own innovations while maintaining the core principles of accountability and human dignity. As winter deepened, Vanessa found herself reflecting on their journey. The foundation had become more than a response to injustice. It was a movement, a catalyst for change that reached far beyond its original mission. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to prove that power could serve humanity rather than dominate it. The sight of snow falling on Brooklyn reminded her of Jamaica's healing rains. Different climates, different contexts, but the same essential truth. Growth comes after cleansing, and healing requires both time and purpose. David's laughter echoed through the foundation's halls, a constant reminder that their work was about more than corporate reform. It was about creating a world where power served the future rather than imprisoned it. His wooden animals, still arranged in meaningful patterns, now told stories of triumph rather than survival. The foundation had become a testament to what people could achieve when they refused to be broken by power. Each success story, each reformed corporation, each healed life proved that redemption wasn't just possible, it was inevitable when people chose to stand together against abuse. As evening approached and the office lights began to twinkle like earthbound stars, Vanessa gathered her team for their daily reflection. Together, they reviewed their progress and planned their next moves in the ongoing work of transforming corporate culture from within. The redemption they sought wasn't just for individuals or companies, it was for the very concept of power itself. Through their work, they proved daily that true power lay not in domination, but in the courage to stand up, speak out, and work together for meaningful change. Chapter 10. New Beginnings. Spring burst into bloom across Brooklyn's brownstone-lined streets, cherry blossoms dusting the sidewalks with pale pink promises of renewal. 1 year had passed since the verdict that changed corporate America, and life had settled into new rhythms that none of them could have imagined during their darkest days. The Sunday morning sun streamed through the bay windows of Vanessa's brownstone, where David chased his new puppy, a rescue named Justice, through the living room. The brilliant young attorney who had led their legal victory sat at the kitchen island, reading the morning paper, while Gloria prepared her famous Sunday brunch. The domestic scene would have seemed impossible 2 years ago, when survival consumed every moment. International headlines still track the ongoing impact of their victory. European Union adopts Mitchell standards for corporate governance. Asian markets implement new ethics requirements. Global Summit on Corporate Accountability opens in Geneva. The Mitchell Foundation's influence had grown beyond their initial vision. What began as a response to one man's abuse of power had evolved into a global movement for corporate reform. Their headquarters now occupied 3 floors of the Dumbo building, each level dedicated to different aspects of their mission. The ground floor housed the Survivors Center, where victims of corporate abuse found immediate support and resources. The space had been designed with input from trauma specialists, combining practical assistance with emotional healing. Support groups met in sunlit rooms overlooking the East River, while professional counselors helped rebuild shattered confidence. The second floor contained the Legal Action Center, where teams of attorneys worked pro bono on cases that followed the precedent set by their victory. The walls displayed framed headlines marking each successful case, creating a timeline of corporate culture transformation. Young lawyers competed for fellowships here, seeing it as the Harvard of corporate accountability law. The top floor, dubbed the Innovation Hub, focused on preventing future abuse through education and system redesign. Business leaders attended workshops on ethical management, while tech teams developed new tools for protecting whistleblowers. The space hummed with the energy of positive change. David had grown into a remarkable 3-year-old, his personality shaped by the unique environment of hope and purpose surrounding him. He moved confidently through the Foundation's offices, high-fiving staff members and sharing his wooden animals with children in the Survivors Center. His presence reminded everyone why their work mattered. The brilliant attorney who had championed their case had become more than a legal partner. His gentle strength provided a different kind of support than what Vanessa had known before. Their professional collaboration had deepened into something more profound, built on shared values and mutual respect. Gloria's catering business had evolved into a full-scale culinary academy, training survivors in both cooking skills and business, in management. Her fusion cuisine, blending Caribbean traditions with New York innovation, became a metaphor for their approach to corporate reform, preserving what worked while creating something new and better. Michael's security systems division had revolutionized whistleblower protection. His team developed encryption methods that even government agencies couldn't crack, ensuring that evidence of corporate misconduct couldn't be buried or destroyed. Their technology protected truth-tellers across the globe. The network Diana had built continued to expand, now operating as a formal organization with chapters in 30 countries. Their secure communication platform connected corporate accountability advocates worldwide, sharing resources and strategies. Diana herself had emerged from hiding to lead public campaigns for reform. James Cooper's transformation of Cooper Industries became a case study in corporate redemption. The company's new ethical business practices earned international recognition, proving that profitability and responsibility could coexist. Harrison Cooper, fully recovered, served as chairman emeritus, focusing on mentoring the next generation of ethical business leaders. Even Beckham showed signs of genuine change. His work at the women's shelter had evolved from mandated service to voluntary commitment. The man who once wielded power as a weapon now taught classes on recognizing and preventing abuse. His story became part of the Foundation's curriculum on redemption and responsibility. The brownstone itself reflected their journey's evolution. The basement command center remained, but now coordinated global initiatives rather than defensive measures. The rooftop garden flourished with plants from Jamaica mixed with local species, creating a peaceful retreat for reflection and planning. David's room had transformed as well. The defensive architecture remained subtle, but was now complemented by creative spaces and learning areas. His wooden animals, still arranged in meaningful patterns, told stories of adventure rather than survival. The Jamaican craftsman who had carved them visited regularly, teaching David the art of woodworking and the wisdom of his culture. The brilliant attorney's presence in their lives grew naturally, his understanding of their journey making him uniquely suited to share their path forward. He connected with David through music, teaching the boy guitar while sharing stories of his own family's fight for justice in previous generations. Their Sunday gatherings became legendary in the neighborhood. Gloria's fusion cuisine drew people from all backgrounds, creating an informal salon where corporate reformers mingled with local activists, sharing ideas and building coalitions. These meetings often sparked initiatives that would reshape corporate practices. The Foundation's influence reached into unexpected areas. Sports teams consulted them on ethical management. Entertainment companies sought their guidance on workplace culture. Even religious organizations requested their help in managing institutional resources responsibly. David's questions about their work revealed growing understanding. "Are we helping people be strong together?" he asked one Sunday morning. His insight captured the essence of their mission: strength through unity, power through shared purpose. The brilliant attorney's relationship with Vanessa deepened through their shared commitment to justice. Their evening discussions on the Rooftop Garden ranged from legal strategy to personal dreams, each conversation strengthening their connection. His presence brought a steadiness that balanced the intensity of their work. As spring progressed, the foundation launched new initiatives. The Youth Leadership Program taught ethical business practices to high school students. The Corporate Transformation Institute helped companies restructure around human values. The Global Accountability Network coordinated reform efforts worldwide. Their impact on corporate culture showed in measurable ways. Companies voluntarily adopted Mitchell standards for ethical practice. Business schools revamped curricula to emphasize social responsibility. Investment firms developed new metrics for measuring corporate ethics. The brilliant attorney's proposal for expanding their legal education program sparked lengthy discussions on the rooftop garden. These conversations increasingly blended professional passion with personal connection, their shared vision for the future encompassing both institutional and intimate dreams. David thrived in their evolving family dynamic, his natural empathy enhanced by exposure to their work. He developed his own ways of welcoming new survivors to the foundation, sharing his wooden animals and stories of strength. His innocent wisdom often cut through complex situations to reveal simple truths. As spring flowers bloomed across Brooklyn, their future took shape with growing clarity. The foundation's work would continue expanding, but personal joy need not be sacrificed to professional purpose. They had proven that love could flourish alongside justice, that families could grow stronger through shared commitment to positive change. The brilliant attorney's increasing presence in their lives felt natural and right. His understanding of their journey, his gentle strength, and his dedication to justice made him a perfect partner in both professional and personal spheres. Together, they began imagining a future that combined purpose with joy, mission with love. Their story had evolved from one of survival to one of transformation. Each new beginning built upon lessons learned, each step forward guided by commitment to positive change. The power they now wielded wasn't about control or dominance. It was about creating something beautiful from the ashes of adversity. Chapter 11. The Proposal. Central Park bloomed in full spring glory, the Bethesda fountain's waters dancing in the late afternoon sunlight. Cherry blossoms floated on gentle breezes, nature's confetti celebrating new beginnings. The brilliant attorney had chosen this spot with careful deliberation, a place of public beauty reclaimed for private joy, much like Vanessa's journey. From corporate warrior to beacon of change. The day had been orchestrated with the same precision that had won their landmark case. David, dressed in his favorite blue suit from a Jamaican tailor, had spent the morning with his grandparents at the Central Park Zoo, strategically positioned for the moment to come. Michael had discreetly positioned cameras to capture every angle of the Fountain Plaza, while Gloria had arranged for a string quartet to emerge at precisely the right moment. The attorney stood by the fountain's edge, remembering the long path that had led here. His hand touched the antique ring box in his pocket. Inside nestled his grandmother's ring, restored and resized by an artisan jeweler in Brooklyn. The platinum band held not just a diamond, but 3 small sapphires that matched the color of the Caribbean waters, where Vanessa had found her strength. Diana's network, now a powerful force for corporate reform, had helped coordinate the moment's security. Former victims turned advocates monitored the perimeter, ensuring their private moment remained protected. Even the park's vendors had been briefed, part of the invisible network of protection that had grown from their shared struggle. The text from Michael arrived right on schedule. V approaching from the south path. Operation New Chapter is go. Vanessa appeared through the tunnel of elm trees, sunlight playing through new leaves to dapple her cream silk dress with shadows like nature's. Lace She had just finished giving a keynote speech at Columbia Business School about ethical leadership, her words inspiring a new generation to view power as responsibility rather than privilege. The foundation's success had exceeded their wildest hopes. Their model of corporate reform had been adopted globally, with offices now operating on 5 continents. Each day brought news of companies voluntarily implementing Mitchell standards, of whistleblowers finding protection, of lives rebuilt from the ashes of corporate abuse. Music began to drift through the air, the string quartet emerging from their hidden position, playing the same melody that had been playing in his office the first time she had truly smiled at him, months before the trial began. The musicians were themselves survivors of corporate abuse, their artistry now serving celebration rather than survival. From behind the fountain, David appeared with his grandparents, carrying a small wooden box that the attorney had helped him make in their weekend woodworking sessions. The box itself told their story. Caribbean hardwood joined with American maple, strength meeting grace in perfect harmony. Inside this box, the attorney explained, as David presented it to his mother, are memories we've collected over the past year, ticket stubs from movies we've watched together, David's first report card with my signature next to yours as guardian, the recipe for that disastrous attempt at making Jamaica's national dish. The contents chronicled their evolution, from legal allies to family. Each item represented a moment when justice and love had intertwined, when professional purpose had blended with personal joy. At the bottom lay a single key. "That's the key to our future," he said, taking it from her. "I bought the brownstone, next door to ours, not to merge them or make some grand mansion, but to turn it into a satellite office for the Foundation's youth mentorship program. Because I believe in building something that lasts, something that grows beyond us." The string quartet's music swelled as the sunlight turned golden, casting long shadows across the plaza. David watched with wide eyes, Justice the puppy sitting obediently at his side, as the attorney knelt beside the fountain, the antique ring box emerging from his pocket. "Vanessa Mitchell, you walked into my office 2 years ago with a case that would change corporate America, but you did so much more than that. You showed me that true power lies in the courage to love openly, to fight fairly, and to build carefully." He opened the ring box, revealing the vintage platinum band catching the light like captured stars. "This ring was my grandmother's. She was a civil rights attorney in the 1960s, fighting battles that seemed impossible to win. She taught me that justice and love are 2 sides of the same coin. Both require courage, dedication, and unwavering faith in what's right." From around the fountain, their extended family emerged. Gloria and Marcus Mitchell, Michael with his cameras, James Cooper with his proud smile, Diana with her network of survivors turned celebrants, and key members of the Foundation's team who had become family through shared purpose. Each carried a white rose, forming a circle of support around the central players in this moment. "The Mitchell Foundation helps people reclaim their power," he continued, still on one knee. "But you, Vanessa, you helped me understand what power really means. It's not in courtroom victories or corporate boardrooms. It's in Sunday morning pancakes with David. It's in late-night strategy sessions that turn into stargazing on the roof. It's in building a future that's bigger than ourselves." David couldn't contain himself any longer, bouncing on his toes as he added, "Say yes, Mama. We already picked out room colors for the new house." The fountain's waters provided a gentle soundtrack as the attorney held up the ring. "So I'm asking, with all the formal language stripped away and just my heart speaking, will you marry me? Will you continue building this beautiful, powerful, world-changing life together?" Vanessa looked at the ring, at her son's eager face, at the man kneeling before her who had proved that power could be gentle and love could be strong. Her answer would shape not just their personal future, but the ongoing mission they shared. The setting sun painted Central Park in shades of promise as Vanessa Mitchell, survivor, warrior, mother, beacon of change, prepared to say the word that would begin their next chapter. The future stretched before them, bright with possibility and rich with purpose, waiting for her answer. The moment hung suspended in the golden light, surrounded by those who had shared their journey. From darkness to dawn, each person present represented a thread in the tapestry of change they had woven together, proof that love could flourish in the soil of justice. Behind them, the city skyline stood transformed, not just by new buildings, but by new standards of corporate accountability that they had helped establish. Their personal joy would multiply their power to create positive change, showing that happiness and purpose could grow stronger together. Chapter 12, The Wedding. The Brooklyn Botanic Garden transformed itself for the occasion, cherry blossoms creating a natural cathedral of pink and white petals. Early morning light filtered through the cherry esplanade's canopy, nature's own stained, glass casting dappled shadows on the gathering below. After 3 years of battles and victories, of darkness turned to light, Vanessa Mitchell prepared to celebrate not just a wedding, but a triumph of love over power. The Cherry Pavilion had been converted into a bride's sanctuary, its glass walls offering views of the garden's splendor, while providing privacy for the final preparations. Gloria arranged her daughter's wedding dress, a masterpiece of elegant simplicity designed by survivors from the Foundation's fashion industry program. The ivory silk fell in clean lines, its only adornment the intricate Caribbean-inspired embroidery at the hem, each stitch telling a story of heritage and hope. "Something borrowed," Gloria said, fastening her mother's pearls around Vanessa's neck. The same pearls that had witnessed courtroom battles and corporate confrontations would now witness promises of love and commitment. "Something blue," added Michael, presenting a sapphire bracelet that matched the stones in her engagement ring. The gems had been ethically sourced through one of the Foundation's partner organizations, their beauty unmarred by exploitation. "Something old," James Cooper contributed, offering Catherine's vintage silver hairpin. "She wore this the day she first challenged corporate corruption. It seems fitting for it to witness a different kind of justice today." "And something new," David announced proudly, presenting a hand-carved wooden heart he'd made with his soon-to-be stepfather, the natural grains of Caribbean cedar flowing into American maple. Outside, 300 guests gathered beneath the cherry blossoms. The guest list read like a testament to transformation. Survivors turned advocates, executives who'd chosen ethics over expedience, lawyers who had followed their precedent to fight their own battles for justice. Among them sat students from the Foundation's mentorship program, their presence a promise of continued change. The string quartet began playing as the brilliant attorney took his place beneath the flower-laden arch. His best man, a fellow advocate for corporate reform, handed him a handkerchief with a knowing smile. These tears would be different from those shed in courtroom battles. David emerged first, carrying the wooden box he and his future stepfather had crafted together. Inside rested the rings, his mother's a delicate platinum band designed to nestle against her engagement ring, the attorney's a simple gold circle engraved with the words "Love Justly" in flowing script. The music shifted to a unique arrangement that blended classical wedding march with steel drum rhythms, a musical representation of their merged worlds. As Vanessa appeared at the end of the petal-strewn aisle on her father's arm, the gathered crowd rose in silent tribute. The attorney felt his breath catch. Vanessa's beauty had always been evident, but today it radiated from within. The serene power of a woman who had faced darkness and emerged stronger, who had transformed vengeance into justice, who had built victory not on the defeat of others, but on the triumph of truth. Judge Rodriguez, who had presided over their landmark case, now stood ready to officiate their marriage. Her words carried the weight of both legal authority and personal understanding. We gather today not just to unite two people, but to celebrate the power of love to transform justice into healing. The vows they exchanged wove together their personal and professional commitments. The attorney spoke first, his legal eloquence transformed by emotion. "I choose you, Vanessa, not because you're strong, though you are. Not because you're brilliant, though you shine brighter than any star. I choose you because together we've proven that love is the greatest power there is." Vanessa's response carried the same certainty that had once faced down corporate giants. "I choose you, not because you helped me win a battle, but because you showed me that true victory lies in building something beautiful from something broken. Together, we'll continue creating change in this world." David's special role came next, acknowledging this wasn't just a union of two people, but the formation of a family. The boy stepped forward, serious in his tailored suit, and read from his heart, "I choose both of you as my parents. Mum, who teaches me that being strong means being kind. Dad, who shows me that being brave means standing up for others." The exchange of rings became a three-way promise, with David receiving a special pendant that matched their bands. The wooden box that held the rings would become a family treasure, holding future memories of their shared journey. As evening approached, lanterns began to glow among the cherry trees like earthbound stars. The celebration that followed turned the Brooklyn Botanic Garden into a festival of joy and possibility. Tables set among the blooming flowers held place cards written by children from the Foundation's programs. The menu featured Gloria's Caribbean-American fusion cuisine alongside dishes contributed by families they had helped. Harrison Cooper raised his glass for a toast that bridged past and future. To power transformed into purpose, to justice tempered with love, and to a future where strength is measured not by what we can take, but by what we choose to give. Near midnight, as the celebration continued around them, Vanessa and her new husband stood at the garden's highest point, looking out over their gathered family, both blood and chosen. David had fallen asleep in his grandfather's arms, the wooden heart still clutched to his chest. "Ready for our next chapter?" the attorney asked, his arm warm around her waist. Vanessa leaned into his embrace, watching the lantern light play across the faces of those who had become part of their story. "More than ready. We have work to do, and now we'll do it together." Above them, stars winked through cherry blossom branches, witnesses to a celebration of love's triumph over power, of justice's victory over corruption, of hope's emergence from despair. The future stretched before them, bright with promise and purpose, ready for whatever challenges it might bring. For in the end, their story proved what Vanessa had known in her heart since that night in Beckham's mansion. True power lies not in wealth or control, but in the courage to love fully, fight fairly, and build something beautiful from the ashes of adversity. The cherry blossoms continued their gentle dance in the night breeze, nature's confetti blessing this new beginning. Their love story had become more than a personal triumph. It was a testament to the possibility of change, a beacon of hope for others facing similar battles, and a promise that justice and love could not only coexist, but strengthen each other. As the last dance began, their extended family gathered around them, forming a circle of protection and celebration. The music blended Caribbean rhythms with classical harmonies, creating something new and beautiful. Just as they had created, something extraordinary from their shared commitment to justice and love. The end